Sarge, thank you so much for challenging me for this opportunity to discuss haversacks. And, you know, pretty big shoes to fill. You know, Blackie Thomas, the Blackie Thomas, got this thing going, and then he challenged James Bender, and James Bender challenged Sarge, and now here I am. Like, what can I offer? What can I talk about that hasn't already been brought up and discussed? I know this is a gear video and everybody's kind of got their own flavor of gear and stuff, but my channel is an educational channel, right? And just like Sarge, and I love Sarge's take on it. If you haven't watched Sarge's video, it is in the description box below, along with James Bender's and along with Blackie Thomas's. And this is fantastic. I love everybody's little bit of take on it. So what can I offer? Well, my time period that I'd really like to focus on is like the 1910s into the 1930s. You know, there's a 20-year gap there and a lot of things happen. And when I started this whole early campcraft journey, it started with a Boy Scout focus. So that's where I'm kind of going. Now, I'm going to show you how what I'm wearing, this doesn't seem like much of a haversack, does it? Like when we take the actual term of a haversack, and what's this thing on the back? This is where I can contribute to the discussion. Now, I think I'm going to start off, before I get into the haversack aspect, I'm going to start off with the challenges of the haversack in general. Now, the haversack is definitely a very militaristic item. Historically, the haversack was used to store food. That was your kitchen, right? Like, you didn't put your sleeping gear, your clothes, and your deck of cards and everything else like that in it. And for that, you'd put in your knapsack or maybe your bedroll. But your haversack was your portable kitchen. Today, in the bushcrafting, campcrafting community, the haversack is more or less used like a small bag to carry the very essential items, maybe for a day hike. Or if you're going to have a complete loadout on your back, your haversack would be the things that you wanted to get to rather quickly. So probably the tools that you would need, maybe your tinder bundle and your fire starting kit, first aid kit, things that you need to get to rather quickly that you didn't want to rummage around in your pack, right? Now, the haversack as a food bag goes back to a long time ago, where you would literally have what's called a market bag. Now, the market bag, very similar. That's where you would go and you'd put your food in, throw it over your shoulder, and you could walk to go wherever you want. So that's really the start of it. When it started getting used for other items really began around the late 1800s, not military, but I'm talking about civilian use, late 1800s and into World War I. Now, the haversack then, as Sarge pointed out, you know, Bannermans and all these other ways of getting military surplus made it very available. And, you know, when you're trying to take a few things, I don't like stuff in my pockets, then the haversack automatically comes to mind. So that's really where it begins. And this is where my channel really takes off. And I've got another contribution to it because in the early 1900s, big thing happened. Camping skyrocketed across the United States thanks to the access to a little bit better money, and you also have access to motor vehicles, you have reunions, you have camps that are literally popping up all over and across the United States so people can travel and they have a place to stay. So the campcraft movement, well, it delivered the opportunity for new things. One of the things that also came about was the Boy Scouts of America. Over in England, you have the Boy Scouts started by Robert Baden-Powell. But here in the United States in 1910, the Boy Scouts was formed. Okay, now this is where the haversack comes in. I have two examples of original Boy Scout haversacks. They weren't really called a haversack in the catalog. However, if you really know your military equipment history, you just take one look at this and you know it's a copy of a haversack. And that's exactly what it is. So the two versions I have here, one is older, one is newer. The very first version is this, and notice it has a central point. And this is where the straps, which I'm currently using for this bag, would start and come down on both sides. And then they later developed this, which is a little bit more comfortable. You still have your central point. This is where you would hook it, but you would thread your straps through this so it has another anchor point. Or you could just use this. However, going to the central anchor point gave it a little bit more support and it was more comfortable. So this is a haversack that is designed off of that was used during the Spanish-American War period, the late 1800s. And I think that's so ingenious because with young people, you have to figure out a way of putting their gear, right? And this is perfect for a small human, for a young person, right? But even as an adult, if you're not really taking a whole lot, this is actually pretty ingenious. And what I'm demonstrating on my back is that pack being used in the way that was used in the mid to late 1920s, all right? So that's the time period I'm going off of. This was still sold in the 1920s catalogs, and I'm going to show you why I packed this the way I did and some ideas to get you thinking about at what point do you really need to move from a haversack to a pack? All right, I'm going to take this off and I'm going to show you and discuss with you what the Boy Scout manual says that a scout should take with them. All right, now that I got this off, you may have noticed that I have shoulder pads on here. This is an addition. This is not something that was sold in the catalog. This is something that I saw thanks to Wes on the Camp Crafters Guild for pointing me at an original example and illustration. So if you're unfamiliar with Camp Crafters Guild, it's in the description box below, or you can just go to www.honorableoutfitters.com/join the guild, because this is an incredible community with lots of great people and lots of great resources. But having these pads takes off a lot of strain on your shoulders, especially if you're a big build like myself. Having these small 1-inch wide straps, that would really cut you in, especially with any real weight that gets added to it, which brings me to my next point. At what point is weight too much to really use a haversack? Now, of course, that's a personal question, but me personally, it's right around 6 pounds, 6 to 8 pounds. Anything more than 8 pounds, I really don't want to carry it in the traditional haversack sense, which is across the shoulder. This pack, which is designed by the Boy Scouts of America, alleviates that stress because the Boy Scouts use clips. So if I really wanted to use this pack as a haversack, all I have to do is unclip the bottom D-rings, clip these two together, or just use it as one, and now I have myself a haversack. And I can adjust these pads over my shoulder to make it a lot more bearable. That is an incredible idea and a great invention or modification, if you will. All right, if I flip this over, what does the Boy Scouts tell me I should take? You should have some portable shelter. That's this bedroll here. You should have waterproofing. Paraffin offers a simple way of waterproofing your own materials, so that's just talking about that your shelter should be waterproof. Some effective insect repellent, okay, or protection. Sleeping bag or blanket, that's in here. A poncho, that's also in here, my bedroll. A pack, which is the main central point of this whole setup. Minimum cooking gear. So you don't want to take a bunch of pots and pans and everything. I'm going to show you what cooking gear I have and why I chose that one, because I think it'll surprise you about which one I actually chose. And then you have your personal equipment. As between the knife and the axe, probably the Scout knife can meet most of the normal needs. Through in cold weather, firewood is needed. Frequently, however, small firewood can be broken up without an axe. A compass, a small flashlight, a small first aid kit, and a bit of small but strong rope for an emergency are items you may want to have. Some protecting container for a few safety matches is quite essential, and one may carry a tried bit of flint and steel for emergencies if desired. Toothbrush, a small cake of soap, and a washcloth and small towel are among the necessities. Work out your own list of items. And a first aid kit. That's it. That's all it says that you really need to go camping. I think sometimes we over-glorify about what we take, and especially during the 1910s and 1920s. I mean, certainly the United States was doing better monetary-wise, but money was still kind of hard to come by. So it's not like you'd go out into the woods and have a grand Taj Mahal, unless you're of the upper middle class, like Thomas Edison or Henry Ford, you know, the Firestone group. Okay, so in this pack here, I have it strapped using a leather belt. Now, you could use rope, you could use twine, you know, whatever works. Honestly, I could have used the straps from my shelter half to do it as well, but I opted for a strap. I also opted for the angle flashlight. This is synonymous with early scouting, and it gives me the opportunity to use Morse code if I need to. Now, as we open that up and I move the bedroll, now I have my pack. Now I'm going to pull out things that are not in my pack, because some things that you may put in here I decided to leave out, and that's because I carry it on my person. You know, that's something else. When we distribute our weight and we're trying to figure out, well, what are we really going to pack, you certainly want the things that you're going to use mostly on your person. Now I'm going to go around and pull out what I carry on my person. Now, first off is the neckerchief. This is a 36 by 36 square. It's a nice big original Scout neckerchief. If you're going to carry a big cloth, a big bandana, having a 36 by 36 is pretty ideal, because you can use that signaling flag for first aid and 150 other uses. Okay, what else do I have? I have, of course, my watch, my pocket watch here, my grandfather's Waltham. On my belt here, you can see I have clipped my Ulster scouting pocket knife. Now, the scouting pocket knife literally became synonymous with scouting, so it became known as the Scout knife. And it has all your basic tools that you really need camping. I know Sarge in his video was showing off his Swiss Army knife. Well, I'm going to show off the Scout pocket knife, and what really makes a Scout pocket knife what it is. So first off, a Scout pocket knife has an awl. It has your cutting blade, it has a screwdriver, and it has a can opener. That's all it is. So that is what is included in an official Scout pocket knife. And it has that nice little bail there, so I can hook it onto my belt, which is often seen in many primary sources. And down below, of course, can't go camping without a compass. So I have my compass in my pocket. I have my whistle for emergencies and to round up the troops, of course, but always carry a whistle with me. And I have my pipe, I have my tobacco, and my little cleaning reamer right here in my pocket. Now, I don't really smoke on this channel, and I've never really talked about it, but it's something that actually came up in the Camp Crafters Guild. You know, smoking and pipe smoking was pretty much synonymous with men in the early 20th century. All the camp craft writers, pretty much, except for those who are involved in scouting, discuss tobacco and making sure that you have all your tobacco products with you. And Horace Kephart was very fond of the brown weed. However, on the scouting side, that was often not the case. In fact, even in the early 20th century, you had the scout leaders, the manuals and everything, that was discussing the ills of smoking. All right, now that I've addressed that, I can tell you from personal experience growing up, even in the 90s, scout leaders smoking in camps. It was something that was encouraged not to do, but it's certainly something that everybody saw. And I have seen primary sources, including primary videos on YouTube, that shows scout leaders and parents and everything smoking the pipe around the kids. So that's why I'm demonstrating it here today, because let's be real, it happened, all right? Like, I'm not saying that you should go out and smoke. That's not what I'm saying. However, it was something that happened. All right, now, in my haversack, make sure, yeah. Oh, and of course I got my belt knife. I opted for this particular belt knife for this video here. I think Warren Miller was suggesting this particular style. It's a German hunting knife style with a thistle head. All right, now, in my haversack, on top I have my chunk of sausage in here. because you know, you get hungry, you want to stop for a snack or something. If we're just hiking, then you always want to have a snack. So I got my deer sausage in there. All right. I have a pillowcase. Now, just like your neckerchief, the pillowcase is quite useful because you can stuff it full of leaves, you can stuff it full of your clothing or whatever, and now you have yourself a nice comfy pillow. I have fat wood. Yes, tender. You know, this was something that was very, very encouraged in all the Campcraft books. This is not a modern or new thing. You know, so fat lighter, fat wood, pine, I forget what they call it, but anyhow, fat wood. Then I have my personals kit. Now this personals kit here, this is my hygiene kit. This pattern was used in a lot of different early Campcraft books, but the Boy Scouts was really smart about it. They actually made them so you could market them and sell them. And it has a mirror, so now I can signal. Of course, I can look at my gorgeous face, check my mustache, make sure I'm good looking still, and or I got better looking throughout the day. And I got my comb, I have my brush, I have my toothpaste, and I have, of course, my aluminum container of the soap. You know, because you got to wash up and stay clean. I got my toothbrush. And what I really like about this pattern, this design here, this little pocket. This little pocket is so cool because now I have my towel, washcloth, or something else I can stuff in there, and I'm good to go. I also like how it has the little grommets in here so I can hang it up in my tent or somewhere, and now it's all there. And all I have to do is just roll this baby up and tie it off with my string. Also, right on top is an extra pair of socks. You always got to have an extra pair of socks. Take care of your feet, and your feet will take care of you. You know, that's the foundation of what we're doing, right? To get from point A to point B, you know, having socks, taking care of your feet, that is a priority. I have a dish towel, not to be confused with my bathing towel or my face washing towel. This is my little coffee kit, cocoa kit. So you can create your own, but this has a few items in here, like a small bag of rice. Doesn't take very long to heat up some rice, and I can make some rice pudding out of it. I have, ooh, looks like something spilled over it, possibly, but now I have my cocoa for hot cocoa. I've got all my spices, salt, pepper, and a few other favorites. Ah, that's what did it. Still has most of it in there though. Of course, we have our powdered milk or creamer to go with your cocoa or coffee. And then, how can you make rice pudding without some sugar? So there's my sugar tin. And sometimes, usually I carry coffee in there, but for this particular video I decided to just do cocoa. Now I have my Upton Cook Kit. This style of kit was so popular. I don't think I would personally choose this if I was in the early 20th century because it is kind of limiting with how you can use it. It's got your pot, it's got your cup inside of it. As we open it up, has a place for your little griddle. This is pretty useful. And it has all your wires, so you can use this as a skillet or as a plate. And it has your handles to make this a cup and to make this a hanging pot. So that's pretty useful. And of course, I could always put my silverware in there as well. Now it's an all-inclusive kit. And next we have a pair of shorts because summer, and a short sleeved shirt. Of course, I have my Scout guard rope, which is 15 foot of rope, and this thing is super handy, man. Like, this is one of the handiest things I've ever seen that was sold in the Scout catalog. There's, just like your bandana, there's at least 50 good uses for that thing. I have my fire tinder kit. Now in the fire tinder kit, I have in my little bundle some tinder ready to go. I have my flint, I have my steel, I have my matches, and I have a couple stubs of candles. So there we go. Now in the early 20th century in scouting, you could make a fire using your flint and steel, but what was actually more common at camporees and other activities was to actually have competitions. So there were patches, there were awards given across the country where you could have signed off on how fast it took you to either start a fire by friction or to start a fire by flint and steel. So, this in itself was kind of a pastime just to practice your fire making skills. It was a big deal. Then I have my Bower and Black first aid kit. Now this small first aid kit has everything I would need in case of a small emergency. As we open it up, I've done a video on this before, but it has a nice little guide just in case if I forget. Of course, how to obtain your refills. There's poison ivy ointment. There's mercurochrome swabs. There's Bernalay. The very first camp out I ever went with my troop, a scout got pretty badly burned from grabbing a skillet right off the fire instead of grabbing the glove, which was right next to where we were, by the way. It was in hand's reach. And then we have Halozone tablets. That's for water purification. We have gauze bandage, small and large. We have a couple Band-Aids, and we have some pads, some gauze pads, all in there to get the job done. Now, a lot of these things that the Boy Scouts made and sold had little belt loops. You could literally look like you're Batman going to a scout camp. You had your hatchet, you had your guard rope, you had your knife, you had like so much stuff just went on your belt. Since I have a blanket in here instead of a sleeping bag, I have a small bag here that is full of blanket pins, so I can pin it up along the side. I don't have to worry about my legs sticking out and the monster getting me, and you know how that is. Always got to worry about those things. I have my harmonica. It is not in a period case, but I do take a harmonica whenever I go backpacking, hiking, or camping because it's a great form of entertainment. I also have my sun watch by Ansonia. Now this is such a cool thing. It really does work. If you're really worried about your time and you don't want to take your watch in case your watch gets damaged or something, the little sun watch is an amazing tool to have as long as you have sun, because it uses a sundial and the direction and your latitude and longitude to figure out exactly what time it is. And here in Ohio, it's only about 15 minutes off, so that's not bad. I have my sharpening stone, and I have my sewing kit. This very early tube style sewing kit. Now, what do I not have in my pack or on my person? I don't have a hatchet. I choose not to have a hatchet because it's summer, and really the only thing I ever need to have a fire for is to cook with. And I can get a cooking fire going with some small sticks. I really don't need a hatchet. Now, if I was going to do some projects, or maybe if it was winter and I wanted to split sticks open to get to that dry center, then I'd probably take a hatchet. But for the most part, there's no need to carry the extra weight. And to answer Sarge's question about pooping in the woods. So generally speaking, since you asked, Sarge, I try to avoid pooping in the woods until I get home. However, Scouts did sell a very nice, very compact shovel. Perfect for pooping in the woods. And that is the shovel from Vaughn Manufacturing. Look at this thing. It's small, lightweight, just a long enough handle for a grown man to even use it. It even has a pick to bust through those roots. That way you can really get a nice deep hole for pooping in the woods. The problem is I can't use this for this particular loadout because this didn't come out until the 1930s. And of course I could use a World War I shovel or something like that. But no, I'm not carrying it. I'm not carrying a shovel. So if I really needed to, I'd probably use a stick or find a ditch or something. I don't know. But all right, now how would I load this up if I was going to go for a hike? If I was actually going to use this as a haversack? Well, I'm probably not going to take my shirt and pants. Not going to take the bedroll. Probably not going to take this towel. Really don't need a pillowcase. Of course, definitely need the first aid kit. Let's say I am cooking where I'm out there. All right, well, have my hot cocoa or something. So I'm going to take my mess kit. Of course, you got to have fire, including your matches for that. Got to have my sausage. Got to have my guard rope. Either take it with me like in the bag or put it on my belt. Need my tender. And what's really nice about these old haversacks is they actually have a spot right here. So I can put that right in there to save some space. And in fact, there's also a pocket here that I can use for my mess kit. Now you might be wondering, well, why didn't I take the traditional Boy Scout mess kit or cook kit? Because that was certainly represented. I don't think that the Upton mess kit or the Stoppel mess kit was really represented enough. And I don't really use this because it has lead solder. I can't cook on this. So unfortunately, this is really just for show. If you do get an Upton or Stoppel mess kit, make sure you don't cook anything in it because of the lead. But it is a great piece of kit if you're really looking for something very, very small, compact, and basic. It does everything you need it to. I really don't need my blanket pens. Of course, I'll need my sharpening stone. Of course, I'll need my sewing kit. So you never know when you're going to have a blowout. I'm going to have my harmonica. I'm going to have this. Since I'm using it as a haversack, I don't want to keep it in my back pocket. I can put that in there. Always take an extra pair of socks. Put my watch back in my pocket. Put my knife back on my belt. Do I really need personal items? Well, probably not, but having the soap is pretty handy, especially when we're cooking and cleaning. So let's go ahead and take out the mirror for emergencies. Let's go ahead and take out the soap, and let's go ahead and take out the towel. The rest of this, really don't need. This saves some weight, and every ounce matters when you're going hiking. You should always take a flashlight just in case if you're out hiking too late. Do I really need my Insonia? No, I think I'll leave that. I'll take my compass and put that in my pocket. And let's pack up my little coffee kit here. And like I said, I got my rice pudding that I can make for a nice energizing snack. Now, double check, make sure your first aid kit is right on top. Easy to get to. Scout is prepared after all. Strap this down. And there we go. Now we have the official Boy Scout pack from the 1910s, 1920s, in its configuration as a haversack. Now, you might be curious, how much does this weigh? Well, let's go see. So we can see from the pack it weighs about 6 pounds. 6 pounds isn't too bad, is it? So now I can throw this over my shoulder, and there you have it. That is the haversack video. Now, one thing I didn't show you was my water. If I was going to take water, I'd take my canteen, just so we got that base cover. But that is the haversack, having 6 pounds. That is what I would probably take on a day hike. I have everything else in my pockets to try to eliminate the weight. I don't have a hammock. I don't have any type of cover or anything. If I'm just going for a day hike, that's all I would really need. And if you're using the Haversack, that's probably all you're going to need as well. If you have anything more weight-wise, then I would strongly suggest that you upgrade to a pack or make some modifications like the Boy Scouts did. Now we can throw it over your shoulders and you're good to go. I could include an entire bed system in here and be comfortable and sleep overnight. I could pack my food inside the bedroll itself. That way I do have the food that I want for the entire weekend and I'm good to go. So Blackie, thank you so much for making this challenge. This has been fun. James, I appreciate what you did. Sarge, incredible historical video. Learned a lot. Make sure you check out all 3 of those in the description box below if you have not already seen them. And who should I challenge? Who should I challenge for a Haversack video? I reached out to Dave Canterbury, asked Dave if he would do one. Now right now, as of recording this, he's in Italy. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it, but Dave, I'm challenging you to the Haversack video. I know you don't use Haversacks, but maybe you have one of your waist packs and you can show us basically a modern version of a Haversack, what you use and how you carry it. I'm really anxious. And Dave, if you can't do it, I do have a secondary. And if both of you guys do it, I think everybody would love it. Grim Granite. Grim, I would like to see what you take in a Haversack. How would you pack it and what kind of gear items would you take? I look forward to seeing what you guys have. If you like this video, please click like. Don't forget to check out all those other channels. They're in the description box below. Also check out the Camp Crafters Guild because you can check it out for 5 free days. There's no obligations, but there's a lot of stuff going on. If you like traditional camp crafting, then that is the place to be. Hope to see you around our campfire. If you'd like to see the original video I did about the Haversacks, then check this one out here because you can make your own and it is well worth the time in my opinion. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Give a kiss and hug to your loved ones and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.